This is episode 34, part 1 of the Home and Family Culture podcast. I'm Jody Chafee. In this episode, I interviewed Lee Waters and Brityn Bennett of Waters and Bennett blog. Waters and Bennett is their solution guide to staying present and collected while parenting in the 21st century. Welcome to the Home and Family Culture podcast, where I discuss how families can discover and design their collective vision, values, beliefs, and traditions that influence their family culture. In this podcast, I interview experts who offer tips and tools to inspire families in this process of developing their family culture, and also successful individuals whose success was influenced by their family culture growing up. Be sure to check out the show notes for this and every episode at homeandfamilyculture.com, where you can subscribe for my weekly newsletter filled with updates on the podcast and blog, as well as other tidbits of information I like to add. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, or YouTube. Please subscribe to your favorite medium. You can also find me on social media at Family Culture Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, and at _Family Culture on Twitter. Be sure to comment, follow, like, rate, and share. But enough about all of that. Let's get to the episode. Thank you for listening. Welcome, Lee and Brityn of Waters and Bennett. So happy to have you on the podcast.
We're excited to be here.
So glad you could be here. So what brought you two together to collaborate on Waters and Bennett? What was your inspiration? We'll start with you, Lee.
Okay, so Brityn and I knew each other from when we both lived in the Richmond, Virginia area. And we got to be really good friends. And then she moved away. And she can talk a little bit more about that. She left me and we continued our friendship via phone calls, lots of texting. And as we both began getting more deeply into motherhood, we both had our first children when we met each other in that time. And as we got more into all the, evolving situations that keep changing and sleep issues and eating issues and all these things, we just kept talking and trying to find answers because the internet wasn't really helping, and we'd be like, we're smart, right? Like we can figure this out to a degree. I mean, we're not smarter than anyone else, but if we just sit here and put two brains together, that's gotta be better than just sitting in a corner and crying about it, right? And so we would have these conversations.
That's why we didn't do that.
No, we did that too. And sometimes there'd be these lengthy emails. Brityn's a fantastic writer. And I'd be like, gosh, I would reference these emails sometimes. What did she say about the nap transitioning? And I would go back and I would reference them. I did. And I thought, we just need to put this out there, because I started having people ask me, and I know Brityn can talk more to this, or more about this, that people would ask her, just because she's like a vat of information that she can pull. She's like a computer. She can just remember it and toss it back at somebody. And I tend to be similar in that I'm kind of a Jill of many trades, and I remember lots of useless information. But then people would ask me, hey, what did you tell me about this sleep statistic, or I don't know, just information, and I would remember. And I started thinking, gosh, we've got to find a way to stop retyping all this for each other and for other people. Let's put it on a blog. So it's very long-winded, but that's how the blog origins are. So
that's awesome. How about you, Brityn? Anything to add to the story?
Well, no, that's all it basically. And she does a good job of telling that. But I remember that one of the first things I really liked about Lee that was different than other friends was that if I talked to her about a problem, she was very solution oriented. Rather, I know a lot of women do prefer, to just cry and
have
just
a sounding
listen
board
to me and let me vent. Even I need that sometimes. And my husband will start conversations with, okay, are you looking for a solution or a hug? So, but one thing I really liked about Lee from the start that set her apart from a lot of my other friends was that she would help me find actual solutions to my problems. And we just found that we were a good team. And then sometimes I could think of things that she didn't, and of course, when you have small babies and you're sleep deprived, you actually need someone else's brain occasionally. Yours isn't reliable anymore. So, and that's another reason we wanted to write some things down.
That's awesome. That's a beautiful story. I love that, it's, to be able to have such a good friend. That's, I think, a rare thing these days. And I know you guys wrote that post about finding friends, and I think it sounds like you guys have a pretty good understanding and credibility around how to do that.
Yeah, I think that's something we appreciate in one another, is that it's all the cards are on the table. It's, I don't know. What do you think, Brityn?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to know, and the longer time goes on, the further apart we move. I feel like our friendship's gotten stronger, and so we value it more and then invest more in it, which, I hope everyone gets to experience with at least one friendship. And I have many wonderful friends in the world, but I just keep moving and keep making new friends and collecting these wonderful people in my life. And Lee's one I'm happy to say I talk to very, very often, and
awesome.
She really enriches my life. Thanks.
And you're creating awesome content for helping people. I think that's important. That I love that you're using your friendship as an opportunity to impact other families and help them. Like, you found some answers. That's like one of the reasons I've created this podcast, is like, I'm finding answers, and I really want to share with people, what I'm learning and create a resource that creates an impact, so that people there's a good source out there of good information that's helpful. So I love that. With all of your experience then, and your, the things that you've been learning, and just in the context of my podcast, what are your thoughts and ideas about family culture? We'll start with you, Brityn, this time.
This one's actually a big deal to me, especially lately, as I've been moving out of the survival phase of having all babies and toddlers with me all day to having kids going away to school. I've thought more carefully about what we're emphasizing and spending time on when my kids are home. I want the time I'm influencing them to count, so to speak. So this actually started last year when I was illustrating a children's book about the first of my mother's ancestors who came to America, and was doing a lot of research on family history, probably to motivate me, because it was a horrific project for me. But I stumbled upon an article about a study done by two professors, Dr. Duke and Dr. Sivis. I'll just do one little quote that the more children knew about their family's history, the stronger their sense of control over their lives, the higher their self-esteem, and the more successfully they believed their families functioned. Yeah. This turned out to be the best single predictor of children's emotional health, I'm reading it, health and happiness. The children who have the most self-confidence, the research also said, quote, have what they call a strong intergenerational self. They know they belong to something bigger than themselves. That's the end of the quote. So I thought it was a fantastic study, and they used it to develop a do you know scale of 20 questions about family history and culture that measured all this stuff. Anyway, it got me thinking about my family and what I knew and valued about my own heritage, what I wanted to pass on to my kids. And this led to things like creating a family motto, more careful planning for holidays. And I don't get really into holidays, for the record, but I just decide which ones I cared about. Yeah. And then a principle I've come to call the white noise concept. Meaning that there are so many options, good and bad, of things to do and see and listen to, especially with modern conveniences as the main caretaker in my home. Right. I have a washing machine and a dishwasher, and really work doesn't take a huge percentage of my life like it would have in the 18th, 19th century. So there's so much time and so much to fill it with, so many options. and with how connected we are in the world, the things we want our children to value are really easily drowned out by so many other things, and not necessarily even bad things.
Right.
But I've come to realize this applies to reading, screen time, entertainment, even the tangible things sitting in my house.
Yes.
So that's what I think about family.
Oh my gosh, I love everything that you just said. Yes, that's 100% amazing. You know, it's so true that white noise. You have to be deliberate about what filters through that noise and reaches us. It's so true. I love that. Okay, Lee, what are your thoughts?
So family culture, honestly, Jody, I had never really thought about it until your podcast and you started, talking about your podcast and I had added you on Facebook and you were talking about it on there and I was like, this is interesting. I had just started, I'm so late to all the games, right? Like I had just started listening to podcasts. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, I'm going to add that one to my list. And for me, I can look back. So it's new, I guess, for me. Those are my initial thoughts. Like it's new, but I can look back and think about families, and I'll just use the name Smith over and over again, who would refer to themselves like in kind of ways like the Smiths stick together or the Smiths never give up, and more recently, I met a family a couple years ago who consistently refers to themselves like on social media, in person, Team Smith. And, at first I was going, oh, okay, that's kind of different. and then I but not in a bad way. It just struck me as that is different. And I like it because they'll say something like, okay, well, Team Smith, sorry, try not to say their real name. Team Smith is going to come and support you at this event, or Team Smith is praying for you, or Team Smith is headed to Mexico for spring break, or whatever it is. And I just love it because for me, growing up, I like to see myself as unique. We all do. And I remember in my family, I feel like, and I have a very wonderful family, but I always saw the ways I was different from my family members. And I feel like this idea of creating proactively and labeling it even as our family culture, our family motto, team family, I think all those things contribute to a sense of, not contribute, they create being united. And I think that is something that I don't want to say I missed out on it, but it was like a whole nother point of view that I'm excited now to add to my family. Because I already see how different my kids are. They come, right? Like they come like they're going to come. There's only a little bit you can do to shape it. There's a lot you can do to shape it, but I mean like their innate personalities are how they are. And so instead of focusing on like, well, this one is so different and this is why he's a challenge or she's a challenge. It's like, nope, this is our family commonality, and promoting that unity to me can only be a blessing. So those are my thoughts.
Well, I love that too, because the idea of being a team, like even on a team, like if you're a basketball team, football team, whatever, they all have different roles. And so it's like, each family, that difference is really a strength to your family because you bring something different to the table that you're like, you are needed. You, child one, child two, you are each needed and you each have a specific role in this family, in this team that creates that bond and that cohesive bond that makes you who you are. Yeah. So I love that.
Amen.
That's awesome. So awesome.
Her family is that's funny Lee saying that because I see her family as a very, very close and very fun and having a very specific flavor, a very Harmon flavor. So
I like the flavor.
So, yes. And because I know her parents and I've met most of her siblings and, but like she's saying, it's nice to label it and say, hey, we're a thing together and we're a force together.
Yeah,
definitely.
So unifying. I love that. And I love what you said too, like how, certain families are like, so and so is they're always on time, or they always have this about their family, or, they're unified. And that's a really big part of, like you said, the flavor. Like I had a discussion in the podcast a few weeks ago about, family culture being like your brand, so it's like, you know what your brand is like at a store, that
I love that.
when you come into a store. Well, there's a feeling when you come into somebody's home, or, when you come into your home and you're like, whoa, what's our brand? What are we celebrating here? What message are we sending? And that's
love that.
You have that flavor. Love it. Awesome. So I like home organization, home management. I like to be organized. I've read a few books about like how to declutter or how to get organized and things like that. There was a time when I was really good and I had things broken down to bite-sized pieces. And, have you ever heard of My Lady? So she breaks things down to really, really manageable. And I got to this point where I was like, wow, my house is like always clean. But then we moved, and when we moved to a new house, within the year that we lived there, we had a pipe burst in our upstairs. Okay, and it destroyed the house basically. I mean, we were just renting, so our landlord had to come in, and they were like, "Oh, this will take about 2-3 weeks to fix." Well, it took 2 months.
Yeah,
and we basically had to move out of our house and put everything in the garage, and then when we came back, they decided that they would also replace the carpets, even though they hadn't. So we had to move out again. And it never clicked for me again after, while we were living there, that like mentally, for some reason, I was in a fog after that, because I was like, I don't know how to move back into this house, because I was just like, I'm done. Like, we're going to move out after this year, and I don't want to deal with it anymore. And, but then I started noticing that how my house looked was a reflection of my self-esteem. Like, I started to feel like really junky about myself. I thought that it was an expression of how I felt about myself, but it was really an expression of like what was going on inside of me. And, as I'm going through, I'm just like, this is my inside looks like this, because my heart, mind are in chaos and clutter. And so it was like, I just felt like I needed to figure out how to tackle that fog and recommit to fixing what's going on inside of me. And then, but like, it helped me if I could fix what's going on around me, that would help me fix what's going on inside of me. Like, there was this one time I just read this great book. It was called Get Organized, Clear and Simple Way. And Michael and I, there was a small room in our tiny townhouse, right? Or not even a townhouse. It was a condo, 2-bedroom condo. And the laundry room was just like packed with storage. And so we took the principles from that book, and we had like 5 bags of either donate or trash. And from that point on, there was like a fog that had lifted, because there was so much less physically around me. And so right now I'm trying to get back into that place where I can be like, if we can declutter our space and have better home management, that will lift a fog within me. And so how does that home management, that, whether it's decluttering, whether it's maintaining your chores, whether it's, just, it could be the schedules or organizing your time, because that's part of it too, right? It's like saying a place for everything and everything in its place, right? But it's also a time for everything and everything in its time, And so it's like, so that could be part of it too. And so when you think about that fog being lifted, or the space being cleared and the fog lifts off of you, then you're able to function better as a mom, as a family, and mom is less cranky, mom is less, disorganized and things like that. And so that's a reflection of your family culture because of the way mom feels. How does home management reflect our family culture?
So like you said, when you walk into somebody's home, you know pretty quickly, like, it's got a smell, it's got a look, it's got a vibe. Basically, time is crucial, right? Like, we have so little time these days, whether you have 1 kid or 10 or no kids, like, it's just, time is precious. And I don't want to spend it cleaning. You know, I don't want to spend all of it cleaning, and everything that we bring into our house has to be cleaned or cared for. And so I think both of us really try to focus on not having an excess of anything, whether it's clothing, toys, books. And, you know, that's kind of the first half of it. The other part would be just breaking down the cleaning and the care and the management that you do have to do in manageable sized chunks. For me, I just try to break it. Like some days I do, like I might vacuum my upstairs, or, you know, other days I try to do my bathrooms. I don't try to all do it at once. And so that kind of reflects on my culture, because one, stuff is not my priority. And two, I don't want my kids to be like, I can't talk to mom, you know, for the first 8 hours of the day because she's cleaning all the time. You know, I don't want that to be my priority either.
Right.
So, Brityn, what do you think?
When you're talking about it reflecting you, I know my husband or other people would say, people are coming over to my house and I'm running around trying to get it nice. And he says, they don't care.
Yeah.
And I say, well, I know it's not my identity, but this is my job. This is what I spend. Right now, I've had lots of jobs before. I'll have jobs after, but right now, managing this home is my job, and I take pride in it. And it's okay for me to want people to see what I want to see.
Yeah.
And I'm not like the anti-feminist for admitting that it's reflecting me, and taking pride in and trying to stay organized and to keep things, like you said, the chaos. And when I was talking about the white noise before, I feel like the main why I've uncluttered stuff and tried to unclutter my time is that in this chaotic phase of life for me, I'm easily rattled by toddlers. So in this chaotic phase of my life, I feel like at least toddlers, small children are chaotic for me. Some people just love lots of little kids around, but for me, it feels chaotic. So I need all the calm and focus I can achieve, even subconsciously. So I've been trying to do this by empty space on my walls and floors, and having as little stuff as possible that I have to clean up after them, because I want to teach them how to do things themselves and work. So those chores that need to be done, like dishes and laundry and stuff, if I have less to pick up, if I feel less overwhelmed, I am less frustrated about going slower and teaching them how to do it. So because they're small, and that wouldn't apply to everybody, but I have 4, 6, 2-year-olds that can help with things and need to start learning things. And as much as I just want to do it faster by myself, I'm trying to keep things simple so that I will take the time to teach them how to do things. And this also, I feel like you have to be realistic. So give yourself a junk drawer, maybe on every floor of your house. And then the other way, the management thing, I troubleshoot too every few months or so, because things constantly change. Like you said, you moved to a new house and then there was a problem. And so I've learned after 9 years of marriage and 6 years of parenting that there's no one perfect routine or solution. I'm not just saying from family to family, I'm talking about within my own family. Yeah. And the truth is we constantly change states and houses and phases in our careers. You know, sometimes more has been put into my career. Sometimes right now it's my husband. He's a medical resident, so it's all him right now. And on top of it, our kids' needs are constantly changing as they grow. So I think it's good to not get discouraged when you have to reevaluate every once in a while. So, and get a new storage bin or add or subtract tasks or routines. That's what I think of when I think of home management, and maybe not reflecting my family culture, but allowing me to then opening things up. So I have the clarity of mind and atmosphere to do the things that are more enriching. And when I think of this my home and how it looks and feels, reflecting my family culture, all those logistics to me are things that need to be managed so then I can, in as efficiently as possible, so then it leaves room for those things that feel more meaningful to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like you were saying earlier about the white noise and how it's like sometimes I feel like when we have too much going on, even in our house, that it produces white noise, not just in our home, but even in our minds. And we get that, distracted by all the things that are stacking up and it's distracting. And so I think that, like you're saying, like if you can manage those things, that it quiets some of that noise that's going on and you can be more deliberate about what you're filtering through. And also I like that what you said about, reevaluating, because like with my situation and having moved and, I needed to be able to force myself to get out of that fog. So it was like, if I was going to stay in that house and right now we've now purchased a house and I'm just like, I can't be in a fog. I'm living in this house. And, but when I do get in that state where I'm like, I'm just in a fog and there's so much white noise just because there's a lot going on in my home, then I need to take that time to reevaluate and to figure out what is creating that fog so that I can then really tackle it and not feel like there's so much stress just because my home is creating that white noise, because we don't need more stress, right? We definitely don't.
No, I know.
So what is your biggest challenge? What is your biggest challenge with home management?
All right. So it kind of relates to what you're just talking about, and that would be like getting ahead of the problem. So I've got my systems in place, but then sometimes like there's that type A side of Lee, and then there's the other side of Lee that's like party animal. Party Lee. The kids are asleep. I'm not going to finish cleaning the kitchen.
Right.
Or I'm going to stay up late and like spend time with my husband, and we're going to watch TV, and we're going to like laugh and be adults. And then we're going to not want to get up and do, Brityn and I we strive to do these power hours where we get up before our kids. And so going back to what you were saying, like there's a problem and I might be causing it or I might not be causing it, but like to remedy the problem. So like if I can get up, even if I stay up too late, earlier than my kids and maybe finish cleaning the kitchen or get my scripture study done or my planning done or whatever I need like mental energy to do, whether it's the laundry or whether it's taxes. Like if I can get up before them and do it, then, or maybe for some people it's at nighttime, like after they go to bed doing it, then the next day or the next section of time, you're set up for success. And so sometimes it's like, I'll be getting on a good streak of success. And it's like my brain goes, no, you're good. It's like when you lose a few pounds and you're like, okay, well, I'll have a treat now. And I'm like, I fall prey to the treat yourself, And I think for me, when I have the challenge is just, regardless of if I cause the problem or if the problem exists, doing the thing that will make the problem go away can sometimes be painful. It's like if you want to start getting up early, but you go to bed too late, at some point, if you just start getting up early, you'll go to bed earlier because you'll be tired sooner. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's kind of like a roundabout way of just saying sticking to my systems is my challenge. I set up systems. I'm really good at it. And then my other half of my personality is like, you don't need these systems, stay up late or take the kids and don't make them clean their rooms, let's go to the park, which this is a saying that a lot of people, you hear over and over again. And I don't know, like, I feel like you hear it now in our generation of parenting more than ever. And that's, your laundry will always be there. There will always be laundry, but your kids won't always be little. And I understand the sentiment of that sentiment, but sometimes the laundry needs to get done so that every time mom doesn't walk into the laundry room to get the shoes and the kids are falling and they can't find their shoes and mom's starting to get frustrated.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if I had just done the laundry every day or however often you do it, you know, it would be 5 minutes that I'm not paying attention to my kids, you know, at a time. It's like 5 minutes to load it, 5 minutes to unload it, 5 minutes later. It doesn't have to be at once, but it's 5 minutes out of their lives that you're taking. And then you're a more pleasant mom because your laundry room is in order and you know where your kids' clothes are and you didn't buy them the same pair of shoes twice because you already had bought them and you forgot about them under the pile, you know, then you're a better mom.
Yeah.
And so I kind of get annoyed sometimes when I see that because I feel like it's an excuse for us to just not put in systems because we think we're being better, we're being nicer parents or we're being nicer to ourselves, but really preparation makes us happier. I mean, that's like science, right? When our needs are met, and even though it's not like shelter, food, clothing need to do your laundry, I mean, it kind of is because you got to have clean clothes, but you know, it's a need that we've imposed on ourselves through 21st century standards of living. You know what I'm saying? It's there. So it needs to be dealt with.
Well, and that's something that, you know, we're like wired to focus in on things that are what's going wrong. Like we like hone in on criticizing or, you know, whatever it is, like, it's like our nature, it seems like, where that thing that is negative is what jumps out at us because we want to fix it or we want to, you know, protect ourselves or whatever it is. It's like we're wired to do that. And so when we see a problem, we're instantly like, that's our focus. And so it actually does take away from that time that we get, like you were saying, it takes away from our kids because we're focusing on that. And then if I don't do something about it, then I start to get like this anxiety bubbling up inside of me. And then I like, lash out almost. I'm like, I can't stand the way things are. So I love everything you just said. And
there's a Lee in this house that comes out when the house is not even dirty, but like cluttered. Yeah. And Sam knows, my husband knows. It's like, all right, everybody grab a basket and start chucking crap in there because we gotta like declutter because I can't think.
Yeah. And another thing that you said about, you know, get up early in the morning or, you know, silence the funly for a little bit or something, whatever it is. You know, it's like, I've been hearing this phrase a lot lately, to parent yourself. You know, I mean, it was like, that's a big concept right there. But it makes, you know, it's one of those things that it's like you learn, like I'm the adult here, you know, and you're like, this is my job now. And
definitely
sometimes it's like, that's a bummer. But then, you know, you get into it and you start. And a lot of times it's just starting, right? That gets you going. And
listen to a podcast.
Brityn, anything you want to add? What is your biggest challenge for home management?
It's kind of funny because when I thought about it, my answer sounds kind of opposite to Lee, but it's all connected, right? So my biggest challenge managing a home of 2 adults, one who will remain nameless, messier than the other, and 3 small children, is not obsessing and spending too much time on the minutia for me. So like keeping my house perfect or getting everyone in and out of the car on time so many times each day. I hate the feeling of running around all day like a chicken with my head cut off and realizing that while I was very, very busy, I didn't actually accomplish anything meaningful. I hate that feeling. So I have to constantly remind myself to keep the big picture in mind. And Lee knows that I'm very conscientious about things that need to be done. So it doesn't mean toss them out the window, but find ways to make it efficient and streamlined so that I can do things that are meaningful in the day. So teaching my children confidence through doing things themselves, I said earlier, which always takes more time than if I just do it myself. Teaching them resilience, emotional maturity, love for their family and God and the things that are important to us. Yeah. And having something happen in the day that wasn't just dishes, everyone get in the car, soccer practice, you know, and then at the end of the day, you wonder if any of it meant anything in the long run. So I wouldn't say it was the opposite answer as Lee, but both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
So, and what she mentioned at the beginning about both sides of her personality and finding ways to accomplish everything, something Lee and I have talked about extensively is understanding your own personality and your own needs. So do all the tests of your personality color and your love languages and your, all the things, how you learn things. I mean, I'm an auditory learner and Lee is a visual learner. And so that helps us to manage our homes and all those little tests. I recently took the tendency test by Gretchen Rubin and found out I'm a questioner, and we'll see how that plays out. But all those things help you to identify, and then extroverted versus introverted can go a long way. And Lee and I have been talking a lot lately about how we even plan things out, whether we write them out on paper or put it all on our phone, and everyone does something different there too. Yeah. But finding what's right for you will help you find the perfect balance in your life and be able to streamline those things. But you can't just assume that what everyone else is doing will be best for you.
Right.
I think our goal is to master. It's like everyone's goal should be to master your home, to create a mental space, like to create the mental space to begin the real work of motherhood. Like you really can't be your best mothering or parenting self if your house is chaotic. You can't get your kids to the activity they want to go to. You can't sit down and have that conversation if, there's baby poop on your sofa. Yeah, I mean, there's just, So it's like put your systems in place so you don't spend all day cleaning.
And that concludes part 1 of this conversation with Lee and Brityn. If you've enjoyed it so far, please tune in to the next part 2, where we talk even more about why it's important to model these behaviors for our children, and some final thoughts and book recommendations and websites and blog recommendations. But you can catch all of these things on my show notes at homeandfamilyculture.com. Be sure to check that out. You can also go to my Facebook page at Family Culture Podcast. That's facebook.com/Family Culture Podcast. Or on Instagram, instagram.com/Family Culture Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and share and comment and rate to help me out on my podcast. Thank you again for listening, and tune in to part 2.